Okay, so now that we're all set up, we kind of understand like the strategy of kind of going about these flat sketches. Again, looking at the outer boundaries, the outer boundary of the garment, then working on the inner style lines, and then the stitch lines. So I know right now that I'm going to create a dress, kind of like a ponte dress, I think. That's kind of what I have in mind, of course. So I am, and it's going to be like a little short sleeve, kind of true waist, a little above the knee dress. So I really see the outer boundaries of that garment in my head. Also, another strategy that I know a lot of honestly, not only like tech designers do have, is they do have this hand sketch from the designer. So it is very beneficial, and I really would recommend doing these very kind of messy, they can be very messy kind of sketches of, what they want to be. That way you can kind of like figure, you can kind of be a little bit more strategic. I've been doing this at least enough, and very singular that I can, I just go right into sketching on here. But I will say that in industry, you at least have like a hand sketch to start with that design has kind of passed to you being a tech designer. So it is not the worst idea. I would maybe recommend it even, in your sketchbook or just on a random sheet of paper, maybe just sketch out your, what are you doing, 6 to 8, 8 to 10 apparel pieces. Refer to the rubric on that. Okay, so I have my symmetry line. Now, the outer boundaries, like you saw in like kind of the hand sketched examples that I was showing you in the leather tutorial and that are in the flat sketch examples that are on ELC, the outer boundary of your garment is thicker. So I'm going to be sketching here and I need to get back into my graphic status. I double click and it kind of is like always automatic on 1 point. I think that's kind of the default. I go up to 2 point for the thickness of the line stroke and kind of apply. Since I kind of go back and forth a lot, I just kind of keep this up, honestly. I will be using multi-line. And remember, go back to those Q and W, A and S keys of how to curve it. So you will start at the center, the center front line of this. And so you will be creating a front and a back. So I'm going to start with kind of a lower V. So I will left click right on my symmetry line and I'll come up to high point of shoulder. So as you can see already, oh my gosh, it's already drawing half of my garment because really the garment has to be symmetric. So, it's too hard, anyway. So I'm using my Q, I'm kind of scooping out my V a little bit and then going to high point of shoulder, clicking with my left, going down the shoulder seam. And again, see how like on my left hand side over here, see how it's right on the shoulder, but on my right, it's a little off. That's the croquis just being a little off. It's fine. You're obviously taking the croquis away when you do your line plan. So don't worry about that. So now I'm going to the shoulder, the top of shoulder, left clicking. I'm going to do a little cap sleeve. So I'm going to kind of come down here and then use my W to kind of come out a bit. And click here and then kind of click down. I'm going to do just a little curve here right under the armpit. Like I said, I kind of wanted to do a bit of a true waist here. So click kind of at the true waist, and then come out with the dress. And I'm going to I want it just to go out just a little bit. Obviously you could have it be really tight. You could have it, be, like thick ball gown. Do whatever you want to do. I mean, this is totally on you. And like if you're covering up the arm, like don't worry about that kind of thing. Like you kind of want to do it so so I'm going to do it kind of right above the knee. So here, and then, you know, you never want it to be a total straight line. You want it to be just like a little curved. And you can come in here and go close up and kind of fix, you know, I'm just kind of doing that outer. So when I'm all done, I will right click and that completes it. And so that makes it that nice kind of thick, you know. So next I'm going to do all of like essentially where my seams would be. So those could be, well, we'll go through and kind of, I'll give you some examples. And with the seams, I'm really going to go back, I'm going to go to a 1 point. Okay. So, you'll want to, let me delete this. You'll kind of want to unclick and make sure you're not selecting everything you just selected because you don't want to, you know, change this away from, being 2 point. So I'm going to now do 1 point and apply thickness and go back into my multi-line. And so some of like the garment seams are obviously your armhole. And the great thing is yeah, there's like some little lined guides, but you don't have to perfectly follow them. So, you know, this is my, you know, these are my armholes. It's nice and symmetric. It's really just as simple as this, and I just right click to finish it. And obviously I'm going to have a waist seam. You know, that's the only way I can kind of get that, you know, kind of pinched in look. So I do that. Now, in order to get this flare, I mean, I'm going to do kind of some princess line darts. You could do, you know, if this wanted to be, and I'm using a ponte, which is kind of like a thicker fabric. It is a knit, but it's pretty thick and stretchy. So let's say if this was, so I'm going to be doing like, I mean, I'll just show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a dart here to kind of give it that nipped in look. And then I really would need a dart down here. And it really kind of would be a little, now if it was a gored skirt, or dress, I'd come all the way down here. This is a gore. But I'm going to do little darts. And it would kind of look like this. Okay, so I use darts. Now with princess seams would go all the way up here. And you would do those for more, and you know, if you do a gore, those usually are done more for like wovens. Now let's say this was kind of like all gathered in here. You know, with that, my outer one would be a little, my outer line would be a little different. It would kind of probably come out and it would maybe like, I would probably make it a little bit more flowy in here, right? And then you would kind of come in and do kind of, you know, these gathered, probably freehand little like sketchy kind of things. So that's kind of then my seams, okay? Those are all my seams. So finally, I'm going to come in and again, I want to make sure I have nothing selected because I'm changing the stroke now, and I'm going to do all the stitches. So the stitches are really done typically for, I would say most times you're going to do the stitches for edge finishes. Now that kind of is a little different when it comes to like denim, you know, things like that. So essentially you're using these stitch lines for, you know, for that. So not only would you want to go down to 0.75 and apply thickness, you'd also want to change your type of stroke and make it stitches. And it's this, you know, you've been using this line and use this stitch line. So for wovens, it would pretty much be singular. Sometimes for knits, then it'll be like a double. Like maybe if you were, you know, sometimes it could be a double. But I would say most times you're just going to use this straight stitch. Okay. And I'm actually going to make it, you know, change up the width and make it just a little smaller like you see here. You know, just make them a little closer together and push apply. So the two places I'm going to want to add this is, again, like I said, for my edge finishes. So I have 3 edge finishes here. I have the neckline, I have the sleeve opening, and I have the bottom hem. Those are my 3 edge finishes. So I'm going to first, so I would need to probably just do a turn back here. So I would just do a real short little one here. And again, I'm just, you know, left clicking, bringing it around, really following, you know, I really want to kind of, you know, parallel what the actual, you know, that outer boundary is. And then I'll right click and that does my stitch here. Now this one I have a few options, like, you know, what probably this is going to be, since it's like a ponte dress, it would have a facing, if not a lining. So honestly, you wouldn't see any stitches in here. It'd be on the other side. But it could always have a binding. So with a binding, you know, you would actually create a solid line here. I have an example of a binding and an inset in those flat sketch examples. So you can kind of follow those. So in essence, this is my front view. I mean, obviously I could, you know, I would probably, you know, come in here. So I'm going to just show you how you will have to do some like manipulations to things. So like, obviously I didn't, you know, so I'll want to bring these a little closer together, and you'll, you know, come back up in here when it comes to reshape, and I'll want to, you know, bring these together because that will again help with my fill. I'll want to come down here. Did I make sure I did join those pretty good? You know, if I wanted to add any, oh, see, like here, like this is a little off, so I'd kind of move this up, and bring, you know, obviously bring this one. We'll kind of want to meet here. So I'll do these little reshaping here and there, and make sure it all kind of looks nice. But again, you know, one side is going to be a little off the other. These croquis are just a little not symmetric, honestly. These, you know, so that kind of explains that. And when you want to go into fill, obviously you'll, not obviously, but what you'll be filling is this like full garment and not, you know, these little lines here and there. So when it gets to a place where you really like it, then you kind of can just select all, and you can then group them all together so that you can easily kind of move this around, you know? And this is great because this becomes your front, and then you really can just, which I'll do in the next video, is then do the back, okay? So you'll want to kind of end up when it's all good, it looks all right, you'll kind of group it together, you'll kind of pull it off of your template to kind of look at it, see how it looks, and that's kind of that. So there I'll end this, and then I'll kind of show you how you can kind of quickly do the back view.